It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Culley looks like a guy that says booyah a lot. Make a good play. Booyah. I just saw him on the golf court, and he did like golf course right on the cart, and it looks like he just says booyah a lot. Like, I don't know, man. That dude looks like he's overly excited for too much, and I don't like that.
Why? I mean, he's getting his first head coaching gig. And by the way, the late great Stuart Scott made the word booyah a very great turn. You got to have greatness like Stuart Scott in order to say booyah. Maybe he's on to something.
I love your optimism, and optimism is, I'm sure, what we're going to get for the remainder of the show. As you are very optimistic with this team, welcome into the Locked On Texans podcast, your daily Texans talking news update. Well, me and Cody discuss the Houston Texans, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the car parts, your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. I'm John, some sports guy Hickman. Thank you for checking in today. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Follow me on Twitter at Some Sports Guy. And I can't do the show by myself, of course. The 1-2 punch, Hickman and Cody Davis. Cody, what's going on?
Nothing much, my brother. Glad to be here on this Thursday installment of Locked On Texans. And on today's show, John and I, of course, going to just talk about the 2021 17-game NFL schedule that was released on yesterday. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, what is likely, what is unlikely, what is realistic, and of course, what is not realistic for the Houston Texans. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this schedule is not as hard as I thought it was going to be when I first started looking at who the Houston Texans were going to face this year. And ladies and gentlemen, and John, you can let me know if you agree, the way the NFL set up the Houston Texans schedule, I do believe that it is a little bit more easier than the schedule that they got last year. And there is basically three ways that I'm looking at this schedule. And I think the 2021 schedule for the Houston Texans is going to fall in three different categories that I'm going to actually break up really quick. The first 5 weeks of the regular season, games against the Jaguars, Browns, Panthers, Bills, and Patriots. If there is any hope that the Texans can win at least 2 games this year, it's going to come against one of those first 5 matchups. And look, revisiting the 2020 season, that schedule was downright possibly one of the hardest schedules in NFL history. In fact, it wasn't just downright. It was a fact that it was one of the hardest because they opened up the season against the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Vikings. And that, of course, resulted in the Houston Texans starting off the season 0-4. I don't see a situation where they start off 0-4. If there's any momentum the Texans can get, is going to come in those first 5 games. However, the next 6 or 7, life is going to come at the Houston Texans hard, because when you take a look at the teams who are on the schedule after the New England Patriots, the Colts, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Titans, you're looking at 5 teams who we are all projecting to be, if not at the top, near the top of their individual conferences. And then when you take a look at the remaining 7 games, starting with the New York Jets, I am under the impression that that is going to be where we're going to see the Houston Texans trot out a lot of their younger guys so they can actually see who they're going to keep around for heading into the 2022 season and who is going to be that foundational piece that we all are looking for. And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to mention, and John, if you give me a quick second, I also want to mention that around that last 6 to 7 games of the regular season is when I'm predicting we're going to start seeing Davis Mills a lot more.
The NFL did a very good job of being messy this year. They opened up against Jacksonville, first-year head coach, first-year quarterback in the league. And then they take a trip to the Cardinals week 7. That is going to be a very messy game. I can't wait to see the cryptic tweets from DeAndre Hopkins. Week 5 home game against the New England Patriots. Nick Caserio faces his team for the first time in 20 years on the opposite side. All right. And so I think this schedule for Houston may not be as difficult as last year's. And the reason why I'm saying may is simply because everybody got better. Jacksonville got better. The Browns was a good team last year, made the playoffs for the first time since the early 2000s, and they got better. They added Jadeveon Clowney. So that's also something you can throw in the mix of some type of, I don't know, messy game or whatever the case you want to put it. But Jadeveon Clowney now being added to a Browns defense that already had Myles Garrett. Scary. The Carolina Panthers, and, we already named them. But I will agree with you on if there's any games that can be won on this schedule, I can see the Carolina Panthers being one of those games, and I can see the very first game against Jacksonville being one of those games. But overall, I don't see Houston winning more than 2 games this season. We're focusing on the regular season. I will say this. We're going to see about this team in this 3-game preseason. I love that because it does eliminate the possibility of just taking it a little bit lightly. Now 4 is decreased to 3 games. You'll really have to put guys out there. You won't have that extra week to make up, the last week of the preseason with guys, you're out there really begging for a playoff spot. A roster spot on the team. They have the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay. I love those games. I love the 3 preseason schedule because they mean more now. And I can't wait to see how this 17-game season kicks off. But specifically speaking to the Houston Texans and this schedule, as the AFC East will be their opponents for this year. They have to play that division. I don't see this team winning more than 2 games. The wild card game that I can see them winning is actually the New York Jets. But I think the Jets got better. Everybody on this schedule got better. That's what makes this schedule this year harder. Because everybody got, you look at what Jacksonville did in free agency, in the offseason, in the draft. You look what the Carolina Panthers done in free agency and the draft. Along with the Jets, the Rams switching out quarterbacks, and they're getting an upgrade. And they're getting an upgraded quarterback with Matt Stafford. The Miami Dolphins was a very good team last year. I think they build on that. And then the Colts, Titans, I don't see them winning any of those games. So it's very interesting to see how it plays out. This is a very good schedule for Houston. This would have been a very favorable schedule for Houston if the quarterback situation was a little bit more, how can I put it, more concrete. Shoot, if Deshaun Watson was on this team, this would be a very favorable schedule for Houston. But he's not, and so it's not a favorable schedule. Plain and simple from my end. I thought it was weird that they got a primetime game this year, though, Cody. Week 3 against the Carolina Panthers. Thursday night football is a primetime game. It doesn't shock me that it's a Thursday night football. Honestly, before last year, every Thursday night football game was pretty bad to me. I rarely will see a very good Thursday night football. So it's not shocking that it's on Thursday, but I didn't think this team warranted a primetime game at all because simply this isn't a primetime team at all. But they got one against the Panthers week 3, and we will be tuned in on that game. With every increasing number of makes like Fiat, Kia, and models like Pacifica and XT5, it is now impossible to stock all of your parts you need in a traditional chain storefront. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the counterman orders the parts on his computer, choosing only the brand his warehouse happens to carry? Come on, guys, we can do better than that. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at your home and in your pocket. One reason to repair and maintain your car is to save money that you can use for other important things like mortgage or food. Why would you choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the exact same auto parts at a chain store or new car dealership? For example, the Delphi FG1456 fuel pump assembly for a 2005 through 2010 Honda Odyssey costs $353.99 at Advance, a big chain store, but it only costs $216.79 at RockAuto.com. Chain stores have a different price tiering for professional mechanics and do-it-yourselfers. RockAuto.com prices are the same for everybody and are reliably low. RockAuto.com always offers the lowest prices available rather than the changing prices based on what the market will bear like airlines do. RockAuto.com is for everybody and it does not require a membership or account login. Go to RockAuto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right Locked On in their How Do You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
What's up, everybody? David Harrison here of the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast. I actually just retired from the Army, and while that was a very exciting moment in my life, it also meant uprooting my family one last time. And not only that, but we moved in the midst of COVID, so finding the place that we really wanted to live wasn't as easy as it usually would have been. So we actually have moved a second time, and of course, every time we've had to wonder, is all of our stuff going to fit with our new house? Did you know that people who live in cities move 6 to 8 times before they even hit their early 30s? That's why you've got to check out Feather. Feather is a furniture rental company designed for people who want to feel at home no matter how often they move. Furnishing one bedroom can cost upwards of $6,000, but with Feather, you can furnish a bedroom with high quality, beautifully designed furniture for the cost of your monthly utility bill. Their delivery team brings furniture directly to your home in as little as 7 days. They handle all the heavy lifting so you can go from an empty apartment to a fully furnished home without lifting a finger or assembling anything. And it's not just furniture. They have rugs, lamps, wall art, and more. What if you move to a new place with a different layout? No problem. You can easily get furniture that works for any space. Plus, by renting from Feather, you're choosing a sustainable alternative to fast furniture that won't end up in landfills. I remember vividly having to take time off of work or away from family events or social events that I wanted to attend just to wait for several furniture deliveries coming at different times throughout the week, but you don't have to go through that anymore. Try a new way to furnish your home right now. Feather has an exclusive offer just for Locked On listeners. If you go to livefeather.com right now and use the promo code Locked On, you'll receive $300 off your first month. Again, that's livefeather.com and use our promo code Locked On for $300 off your first month.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with this Thursday installment of Locked On Texans, the daily podcast covering your favorite football team in the Houston Texans every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And we're going to continue this installment with a look at the Houston Texans 2021 schedule. And look, it is no surprise that nearly everyone is expecting a not so good of a season from the Houston Texans. I mean, John, as you alluded to, the Texans have the third hardest schedule in the National Football League. And a lot of people, including yourself, have the Texans winning no more than 2 games. Some of them have the Texans going 0-17, which I think is nonsense to say the least. However, with that being said,
it's not nonsense.
In your opening statement, you did mention how nearly every single team on this schedule has gotten better. I am going to disagree a little bit when I take a look at teams like the New York Jets, who's going to have a quarterback who I do believe is going to be a bust in this league. And not only that, you take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Zach Wilson is going to be a bust in the league?
I think he's going to be a bust as for the number 2 pick. I would not be surprised if we're sitting here 5 years from now and we put Zach Wilson in the category of Jadeveon Clowney, where you say on the surface he is not a bust, but his career did not pan out to be a number 1 overall pick. And I do believe that is what we're going to be saying about Zach Wilson in the next 4 to 5 years. However, with that being said, why do you think there is a possibility that the Texans are going to lose against the New York Jets? And even with 2 games against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I do believe we're going to get at least one of those games.
Talent-wise, I think the Jets have better talent. I think the Jaguars have better talent. The Jaguars, especially at quarterback, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be – he's either going to be bad because of injuries or he's going to be damn good. He's reminding me of the hype around Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford was a really good quarterback that could never stay on the field for a long time. In a sense. But so I think the Jags have a much talented roster. Much talented roster. And when I look at the Jets, I just think the Jets are in a better position right now than the Houston Texans are. They have a talented roster. They have a well put together team. The thing about Houston is when I'm analyzing this team, I'm looking at a couple of things. How will Lovie Smith's defense translate to 2021? The influx of linebackers, how will they be used? How will they be used to get after the quarterbacks? With the influx of offensive linemen, are they really going to be able to hold up in a 17-game schedule? So these are the things that I'm worried about on the inside looking out, and on the outside looking into those other teams. I just see a better, a more talented, should I say, roster than what Houston has.
I can see easily, especially when you consider all the nonsense that's going on with the Houston Texans right now and all the uncertainty going on with this organization. I can see why a lot of people have the Texans winning no more than 2 games. However, John, there are 4 games that I'm counting that I think can swing in the Texans' favor. That's week 3 against the Carolina Panthers. That's week 5 against the New England Patriots. That's week 12 against the New York Jets, and week 15 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. If 4 of those games go in the Texans' favor, and look, there is no way in hell, I don't care if the Texans go 1-16, this team better not lose against the Jaguars on opening day at home to start this season. They better not. Because, yes, I understand Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent, but let's be real, guys. Trevor Lawrence is going to be entering his very first game in the NFL. Not only that, you also got to take into consideration that this whole Tim Tebow nonsense, like the Texans better not lose that opening game. I'm putting that down as an automatically dub. And if those 4 games that I pointed out, which I do believe can swing in the Texans' favor, I can see this team going 5-12. However, that is with 4 games swinging in their favors. And look, we know within the 4 games that I can see swinging in the Texans' favor, they're going to drop at least one of them.
The thing I like about this schedule is, like, do you ever watch games for other teams? Hear me out. So, like,
it depends on who the matchup is.
When I look at this schedule, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. You get a glimpse of Trevor Lawrence.
Twice.
When I look at this schedule, you have the Cleveland Browns. We get to see Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. When I look at this schedule, we get to see maybe the possibility of Mac Jones. Week 3 primetime game. What does Sam Darnold actually look like away from Adam Gase? In the system with a coach that actually believes in him. When I look at this schedule, J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray. So this schedule is favorable for me because I get to watch, amazing players and some of these storylines work out. When I look at the Jets, I want to see what Zach Wilson is looking like. Throughout the entire course of the year, we're going to be hearing things about Zach Wilson. Leading up to the week, we're going to talk to Locked On Jets and other Jets reporters. But now we get the opportunity to see him play football at that time, bearing some type of injury or if he's just thinking up the joint and he's not ready right now. And the Chargers and the Rams. This schedule for Houston would be so good and it'd be very exciting. Even with the offseason that they had, if number 4 was behind center, man. Like this will be one of those, this will be a year where I think with the rebuilding of the offensive line, revamping their backfield with adding Phillip Lindsay, even with the addition of Nico Collins, who's to say that he'd be here if Deshaun Watson would be around. But if Nico Collins was around, Brandon Cooks, who stuck around, the revamping of the defense, with number 4, oh my gosh, this would be a year where he can really do MVP type of things because of the matchups.
But John, to your point, look, forget number 4. He's not going to be here, but just take a look at the additions that the Texans have made. And you and I have talked about this time and time again, that when you look at some of the moves that Nick Caserio has made since taking over as general manager, you can make an argument that this team might be a little bit more talented than the team that Bill O'Brien put together last offseason.
Overall, yes.
And that's why I'm having a hard time believing that this team is going to win no more than 2 games for this season. I understand that we're not going to have Deshaun Watson under center for this organization, but once again, let's not get too carried away and act like that Tyrod Taylor is a scrub, because he's not. I mean, this is a guy who has put together a respectable record as a starting quarterback, and there are other quarterbacks the Texans could be marching into the season with who are a little bit more worse than what Tyrod Taylor can give you. You look at the improvements that the Texans made in the backfield. I'm pretty sure Lovie Smith is going to improve this defense from what we saw last year. Like, that is why I'm having a hard time believing that we're going to be sitting here looking at the Houston Texans go 0-17, 1-16, 2-15. I just don't see that for this organization. And not only that, you and I can agree that a lot of these games, there are not going to be blowouts. There are going to be games.
I can't agree with you on that.
You just say the team is going to be better. And
no,
almost every single week, you and I have talked about almost.
What I said was, I think this is a more talented roster. But with that being said, but even with the additions and upgrades at very key positions, yes, I agree with you on that. This league is still built off mainly what can your quarterback do? Key example, you know who had a talented roster last year? The Denver Broncos. And Drew Lock could not put together consistent weeks to save his life. They didn't make the playoffs. They were a bad team. They were an up and down team throughout the year. So you don't have a quarterback that can deliver with a talented piece around you. I mean, how many times we've seen great wide receivers play with bad quarterbacks, running backs that, are running for their life because the opposing defenses know they can just stack the line. Like we've seen Adrian Peterson do that for half of his career. That's what I'm saying. I think this Texan team has the ceiling of the Cleveland Browns. Hear me out. Has the ceiling of a Cleveland Browns team in 2013 where they won 4 games. Has bottom out of that same, kind of Cleveland Brown team from 2013, that same bottom out of 2016 where they only won 1 game. I think that's the Texans' 4 games, 1 game. And for me personally, I don't see them winning more than 4 games. All of this can definitely change. My perception of this team can definitely change when July rolls around, when camps are starting and off-season workout programs are starting and where practices are starting and, the COVID season that we saw last year that really limited a lot of teams and a lot of rookies and a lot of second and third year guys from expanding in their game, that will be eliminated this year. Preseason rolls around, and I can see the product of the work of Nick Caserio that's going to be led by David Culley and their coaching staff. So a lot of this can change. But if we're talking about right now, May 13th, I don't see this team winning more than 4 games, man. By the way, Clinton Dix is participating in the Texans rookie minicamp tryouts. Well, on a tryout basis. I was pulling to get him in Houston last season, and I think that's a good move to at least see where he's at right now. Bring in another safety that has some type of success in this league, has created turnovers in this league. See what he can do for this team moving forward on a cheap deal. So I like that move. BetOnline is your fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Get all the latest news, odds, and info you need for your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all your UFC MMA action. Do me a favor and don't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their playoff runs. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code LOCKEDON. Again, promo code LOCKEDON. BetOnline is your online sportsbook experts.
Yeah, you're making sports bets, but are you making winning sports bets? To win consistently, you need an edge, research, analytics. It's a lot. Or you could let BetQL do the work for you. Every game, every potential bet, from winners and losers to all the sides and totals, line movement, player props, and more, all backed by BetQL's proven data and analytics. BetQL analyzes over 350,000 unique bets every year and rates each potential bet on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. A 5-star is definitely a smart bet. 1 star, smart money is staying away. BetQL even lets you sort all of today's games with the best options listed right there at the top of your screen. BetQL gives you access to the same information the pros use, the stuff the sportsbooks don't want you to see. It's time to bet smarter and beat the books with BetQL. Visit BetQL.com today and use promo code PODCAST for 20% off. That's 20% off with promo code PODCAST at BetQL.com.
Today on the Locked On Today podcast, will the Dallas Cowboys start the season 0-2? That's the question of the day. Get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts.
John, to close out this Thursday installment of Locked On Texans, let's try to look at this schedule from the fan perspective. You know, I think everybody is prepared for a losing season. Everyone is prepared that this is going to be the first year of a major rebuild for the Houston Texans. But John and listeners, from a fan perspective, I would say this season is going to be very emotional because there are 5 games where we're going to look up and see former Houston Texans playing on the opposite side of the field. And we're going to sit there and say to ourselves, that guy should still be playing in the city of Houston. You want to know who the Texans got on their schedule? As we all know, Arizona Cardinals, a game that is going to feature DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt. The Miami Dolphins, Will Fuller, Bernard McKinney. The Browns, Jadeveon Clowney. The Seattle Seahawks, Dwayne Brown. And of course, the Chicago Bears, even though he's not big as the other names that I just mentioned, Tayshaun Gibson. John, do you realize that at least 6 of the 7 players that I just mentioned should still be a member of the Houston Texans today?
I don't know if they should still be, you know, we would want them to be, but like I mentioned, the NFL did a great job of creating storylines before we even really get to the season, right? Even though JJ and DeAndre aren't coming back to Houston to play, and Houston is going to Arizona, you gotta think that that game is going to be heavily coverage. The schedules dropped today, and Houston is an underdog week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think by 1.5. Like, they're underdogs. Like, that's a storyline because this team that's led by Urban, I'm going to hire my guy and don't give a damn what you think, Myers. And Trevor, I have this amazing hair, Sunshine, Lawrence. Is you know, their first years of professional football are projected to beat the Texans. And the Texans are underdogs. And you look at, I think the Chargers is a good story too. Tyrod Taylor, Pep Hamilton, you know, just, you know, there's connections. So Houston has games throughout this year that has a lot of connections.
If Tyrod is still the starting quarterback at that point.
At that point, and what week is that?
That's week 12.
Week 12. So by that time, you know, I think the type of season that I think Houston will have, by that time, I think you need to see what Davis Mills can do for you. Unless by some stretch of a miracle, Houston is in some type of playoff race. And I think everybody in the city of Houston can agree that that's not going to happen. But for Houston, man, I really do like the schedule because I think no matter what happens with the team, there's something to watch for, right? I mean, if you look at this division alone, what's to watch for is the Jaguars going to get a Peyton Manning type of player? Like Peyton Manning ran the AFC South for a very long time. That's a good question. What can Carson Wentz actually bring to the Colts that I think they could have benefited from a quarterback change last year? And with the Tennessee Titans, is this the year Derrick Henry runs out of gas, or is he still gonna keep running over people? Well, so the division alone has great storylines, and then around the league, the Patriots, the big brothers coming to town again. We beat them last year. Can we beat them the last time we played them? Can we build off that momentum and beat them 3 times in a row here in Houston? That's a great storyline. Nick Caserio versus his old team. In week 2, when we look at the Cleveland Browns, like if Jadeveon Clowney is healthy, is he going to run rampant on Houston? Just a little payback. Here's a little, I told you so. You never know with Jadeveon, but I think this team will be bad. I think this team will have some enjoyable games depending on what side of the coin you're looking at it from. But more importantly than it all, we will have a very great year to evaluate the talent on this roster, the competition that they want to create. Well, when you can put these guys out there for the first game of 17, we want to see if this competition actually makes sense, or were you just feeding us BS this entire time? I'm Johnson Sports Guy Hickman. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like I told you earlier, at Locked On Texans. Follow me on Twitter at Some Sports Guy. Like us on Facebook at Locked On Texans as well. Check us out on all of the major podcasting platforms, specifically the Odyssey app. Leave us a review. What's on your mind? Let us know.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS _24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.